But we find ourselves, or at least potentially find ourselves at an impasse where, we see the NCAA taking these L's in court, and we ask ourselves, do we now see a legitimate opportunity for Reggie Bush to get his Heisman Trophy back? And we have now seen additional pressure being placed on a different front. About a week ago, we actually saw one of the more notable Heisman winners from the 2010s in Johnny Manziel. He put this tweet out. He said, after careful thought and consideration, he felt that he didn't want to attend these Heisman Trophy ceremonies until Reggie Bush received his trophy back. Now, we find ourselves at this impasse because if you guys remember, Reggie Bush, one of the best players of the 2000s, was part of those very memorable mid 2000 teams from USC. And he eventually had his Heisman Trophy revoked after he made it to the NFL because of some improper benefits that he took at the time. But now we find ourselves here in 2024, several years down the line. Now, several years down the line, you find not only the activation of NIL, but what we have also seen is that we have seen a place where the NCAA can't enforce transfer rules. The NCAA cannot enforce, what constitutes good NIL benefits or what's proper NIL benefits. So it begs the question, are we going to end up seeing a point of where will we see Reggie Bush get his Heisman Trophy back? Within my lifetime, I think it's more certain. I think certainly at some point in my lifetime, we will see Reggie Bush have his Heisman Trophy restored. I actually think in the near future, we could have that Heisman Trophy restored back to Reggie Bush. And here's why. So I want to take this back to the state of Ohio. And I know it seems a little bit all out in left field, but I want to make this point because I think, it's very linear to what I want to say, right? So in the state of Ohio, what has recently happened is that, weed became legal here in the state of Ohio. There was a choice in whether, weed should be legalized or not. And the majority of folks in Ohio wanted that to be legalized. And so what also happened as a result of that becoming effective was that for those people that were in prison or they were in jail because of, having weed, not because they were driving under the influence of weed, but, they were driving and they got stopped and they happened to have weed on them. So instead of those folks continuing to have to be in prison and continuing to have to be in jail awaiting trial, perhaps, those folks were set free if they didn't have any other charges that would have kept them in jail or would have kept them in prison. Why? Because maybe what was illegal at the time of their alleged crimes now is legal. And it would make no sense to have somebody in jail or in prison for something where in 2024 is absolutely legal today, right? So it goes back to the Reggie Bush thing. What Reggie Bush did back when he was playing his college football at USC was illegal based on the bylaws of the NCAA. He took improper benefits, and as a result of that, he had to face the consequences of having those improper benefits by having his Heisman Trophy revoked. But in 2024, here we are. We now seen that NIL is an active thing, not only allowed in college athletics, but is at one of the very forefronts of college athletics. It is prevalent in college athletics at this very moment. So Reggie Bush, for lack of a better term, he's in jail or he's in prison by the NCAA because of things that he did 15, 20 years ago, but those things would no longer be considered illegal by today's college football landscape. Though that would be legal, and with that being legal, it opens the door for Reggie Bush to get his Heisman Trophy back. Now, before we even had some of these rulings that happened in the NCAA, The Heisman Trophy Committee, because it's different from the NCAA, they have came out in the past and said, listen, we would be happy to give Reggie Bush his Heisman Trophy back, but the NCAA has to restore his stats first. And the more that I thought about, at first, I thought that that made sense because if there was no recognizable NCAA stats, there's nothing on a stat sheet that would back Reggie Bush earning and winning that Heisman Trophy. But we saw what he did on that field during his Heisman Trophy campaign. We know that this was a certified bad man. And for those of you that are a little bit on the younger side, I challenge you to go look at some Reggie Bush highlights back when he was at USC. Certified bad man. Look that up on YouTube. I beg you. And yet, we've seen the NCAA not able to really enforce these transfer rules. They really cannot enforce anything NIL related. So it begs the question, what is the Heisman Trophy Committee truly waiting on at this point? Because I feel like even if the Heisman Trophy Committee went and reinstated Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy, and the NCAA necessarily didn't like it, at the same time, though, the NCAA is really not in this concrete position to where they could challenge that ruling, right? Because the president has already been set in previous weeks. We've already seen the president set it to where, oh, by the state of Tennessee, by the state of Virginia, that NIL cannot be enforced by the NCAA. And what Reggie Bush did would be considered under those NIL provisions. He really should have his Heisman Trophy ceremony back. So I applaud Johnny Manziel for taking this type of stance. I think it does send a message as one of the more memorable players from that 2010s decade. I thought it was something that was brave, because it is a huge opportunity to represent the Heisman Trophy. And Johnny Manziel himself, one of the most exciting players that we witnessed in the 2010s. So I applaud him for standing up for Reggie Bush. And I sincerely do hope that we do end up seeing the restoration of the Reggie Bush Heisman Trophy, because wholeheartedly, he absolutely does deserve it. I truly believe that. And I'm sure many of you that are watching this truly believe that as well. No question about it.